You may not need this podcast, but I promise you're in the right place. I'm your host, Ben McDougal, with my AI companion and co-host, BenBot. Each week, we're live in the Pour Over Publishing studio to chat with remarkable students, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, and community builders. Together, we have fun exploring the frontiers of entrepreneurship and technology in Iowa and beyond. If you're a curious leader thirsty enough to make a ruckus, welcome to a friendly jolt brewed to keep you building. Enjoy! We have enjoyed conversations around education, around building and the state of now, around not needing permission to make a ruckus. Today, we brought a student into the mix. Anika Yadav is here in the studio, brought some friends. My friend, it's great to have a leader in the studio who has just really made a ruckus so early in her life. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Ben. Absolutely.
So we have to begin by introducing you to some of our listeners. So when you think about how you spend your time, how do you define yourself in this moment of today?
Absolutely. So there are three main things that I would use to define myself. One, I'm a high school student, and this is a big part of my identity. Second, I'm a strong advocate for young people. And third, I'm a proponent for creating ecosystems for entrepreneurship to thrive. Now, most of my time outside of school, in school, I spend meeting other young people and lots of people from a variety of age groups just across the U.S. and sometimes even other places like Latin America, some Asian countries as well, just talking about two main things. One, education, and the second, innovation. Now, for me, education is what gives us the ability, and innovation is what teaches us to understand our capabilities. And those are two very, very important things that can really help us as we're moving into this future of unknown and of innovation, where it's so critical to have those soft skills that were once taught. And that's why I really focus on spending my time with the people that need to understand this and who are really going to be the ultimate change makers and the innovators, the new creators of this upcoming era. And then just something I do for fun outside of this is I explore the city, the environment, because what other place to find motivation from, some insight from, and I really think that once you go out and you observe what is around you, that can really launch you in a whole nother direction, because ideas are everywhere. You don't just have to sit and wait for it to hit you. You can go out and find it.
Wow. Leave it to the 17-year-old for like the best introduction in this entire collection. That was fantastic and so well articulated, thoughtful, and like comes from a state of experience, right? When you're interacting with so many remarkable people, your age and different, like what do you find is like the hope for students? Like when they think about their future, is there clarity?
That's definitely something that as young people we've been thinking about a lot. And I think that over the time it's changed. In the past, there have been times in history where we've kind of known, okay, there's set paths. This is what I'm going to take. This is what I'm going to do. I know what my life is going to look like. Now there isn't a set or restrictions anymore. You can do anything. You can pursue multiple careers, in fact. And now as young people, there's that question. Who am I? Now that's coming up. Who am I? What is it that I value? And what do I want to do? I've been given this life, this time to explore, to create something, to leave a legacy. Now, this is something really interesting, is because most times when we think about leaving a legacy, we'll think, okay, people who are now in their retirement age, they're now thinking about those things because they've lived their life. But what's happening is young people, sometimes even kids ages 10 and younger, are asking themselves this question. And I think that it's happening because we are now in a time where people are becoming more mature early on. There's more access to information, so they're seeing the world a lot more with more clarity, with more perspective, and they're trying to take it all in and understand, okay, what is my place in all of this?
That's like heavy.
It absolutely is.
And I think my encouragement for students who are tuning in is that type of perspective really allows you to be grateful and not waste perhaps this one life that you're given. And like at the same time, not feeling that you must get it exactly right. You know, like
Absolutely.
this is a dance, this is a journey. And so feeling the finality of I need to get this exactly right the first time, that just doesn't usually happen. And so appreciating the A to Z back to 2 over to pi, like, you know, it's not a one size fit all type of thing. And my hope is that allows people to find things that look like work to others, but feel like play to us, right? And how do you navigate a system of education that was built for the industrial era? Continues to reform. We see all sorts. We talk about a lot on this show. As a student, how do you play the game, but go beyond it?
For sure. This is something that I've had to deal with a lot because you brought up a really great point. And what's happening is oftentimes when we're in these school environments, oftentimes we're questioned. Why are you doing more? Why do you want to go out and do this when we have everything here for you? And the thing is, everything isn't here. Right, because there's always going to be something to learn. There's always going to be something to explore beyond what is just around us. And as someone who's very curious to see new things, meet new people, understand new ideas and perspectives, it's challenging to be limited. And I'm not the only person that has to deal with it. I know it. So when I am coming and meeting with new people and new students especially, I ask them, do you have anything you've ever dreamed about? And have you started working on it? Or do you know how you're going to work on it? And more often than not, they have no clue. And it's because they feel like they haven't been supported, or no one's ever told them that, you know what, I believe in your idea. I believe in this crazy big dream that you have. You have the potential and the possibility to go out and achieve it.
Well, and I think about educators, parents as well, who can't be everything for everyone. And so like the generosity, the willingness to be a wayfinder. I want to nourish you in this environment with these resources, but recognizing that there's a limitation to it that you just described, and being quick to connect dots so that you can further explore different areas based off the individual vibes that you're feeling.
Yeah. And I think that a big part of it is going to be involving everyone. It's so important because it's the community's responsibility and even the individual as a student to advocate for yourself. But where the community comes in is that we need to understand that we don't know everything. We never will know everything.
What?
But we can always do our best to help each other find the right resources. And I think the most important thing is that we make people feel valued, especially young people, because this adolescence phase is so critical. We can tip one way or the other, and sometimes in multiple directions. And so when we feel like, okay, we have that support system, we feel secure, then we know that, okay, it's okay to take risks, healthy risks. It's okay for me to go beyond what is seen as normal or common, or just things that are usual. And that support system can really build something so, so special. And I've seen it with some of the work that I've done, like our Girls Entrepreneurship Incubator that we do through Pi 515, Pursuit of Innovation. It's been so, so incredible to see those young women coming into a space.
Watching the evolution from start to finish has to be inspiring.
Absolutely. And most of those young women, they come in not knowing if they are even made for this environment. They're very unsure. Is this even a place where I can be myself? So those first few times, those first few sessions when they're there, they are truly confused. And I think that's part of the journey, because until you're confused, until you're in that environment that's uncomfortable, you don't really grow. And then watching them over the course of those 6 weeks, just seeing, okay, and having those like aha moments, like, oh my goodness, so I've had this dream for a long time. I just didn't recognize it for what it was. And then seeing them at the end realizing that, oh my goodness, it's possible. I can do this. And even if there are sometimes some financial barriers, understanding that, you know what, there are people out there that believe in me, that believe in the ideas that I have, that believe in my potential. So, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to give it a shot.
Wow, that confidence is immeasurable.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Man, this is my new favorite episode.
Why, thank you, Ben.
I love the perspective that you're sharing, and the invitation, I think, for others who are in this stage of their life to get curious, to be confused, to get out of your comfort zone and know that there are others around you that can help connect dots to build towards a state of confidence. I'm going to ask this question knowing the answer, but can you build a company while you earn a degree?
Oh, 100%.
That's like the easiest question in history for you.
No, absolutely. And the reason I say this is because I've seen it in my own life.
You're doing it. You're seeing it all around. You're leading programs where people are doing this at a middle school, junior high, high school level. It's remarkable. Real quick, how does like FBLA, the activity that you have with that program, of course, Pi 515. I saw KWK, JWC. Like you're an award-winning leader in a lot of different groups.
Thank you.
And so the activity that you described isn't just like this one thing that you do. Like it's all sorts of different impacts. What keeps you motivated? Like how do you stay balanced and really effective in a variety of activities like that?
Absolutely. I think for me, the biggest thing is I have identified my core interests. And like I said at the beginning, there are two things that I love to talk about. One, education, and the second, innovation. And over the years, I've actually developed this kind of lens, I guess, which I'm always trying to modify it and broaden it because there's so many ideas that are just waiting to be discovered. But for me, it's now I kind of see the world and I see those things and things that people probably won't recognize. So I see the innovation happening. Like, for instance, we were at Mainframe the other day and there was this artist who was talking about their process for how they create those pieces. And they were talking about how, sometimes they find that motivation in common objects. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this connects to who I am and what I want to do, what I believe in. And then voila, they create a piece. And I was like, do you understand that you are an innovator? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm not here building technology. I'm not here out in the world having my own business. I'm just making art. I was like, no. That is innovation. What you just described is the process of innovation. And really seeing that in people is what's so motivating. Because growing up, my mom was, when she was very young when she had me, and she was pursuing her undergraduate degree, and at the same time she had her own small business. So throughout my life, I've seen the process of entrepreneurship. I've seen what it takes and how much dedication it requires to create this new thing that only you know truly about, the story behind it and what you're trying to accomplish, the mission of it. And trying to get the support from the community. So I've seen that, and that's really transformed into trying to be that support and bring out the best in other people. So through these activities like Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA for short, for anyone who isn't curious, it's really going out into these new communities where I can meet students from across the U.S., students from other countries as well, and asking them questions. Okay, what does your support system look like?
A little importing of knowledge, but
Yes,
exporting
yes.
along the way. I promise,
Right.
your experiential wisdom is highly valuable for others, for sure. Interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So it's really just, okay, how do we get connected? And like you said in your podcast, it's entrepreneurship in this new connected era. It's all about that connection. How are we bringing people together? Because that's where ideas really flourish. So for me, again, that whole motivation of, okay, others have been there for me. I have ideas, but how can I bring out the ideas in other people? What do I have to do so that they can feel that support and they can go out and do it for others, creating that domino effect?
Oh, this is so good. Thank you for being here, my friend. One of the questions I'm going to ask, and then we'll take a break and come back with your response. It's kind of like this thought-provoking effort, right? But when you think about your experience going beyond the system, I mean, you've done it, right? The activities in these programs we're talking about, the interactions, some of the things, we can talk about this after the break too, like NTAs, non-teenager activities, as a way for folks to get outside of their own experience when they're looking for problems to solve as an entrepreneur. So let's talk about that in a moment. But one question I want to ask you, what is school for? Are you looking for that next keynote speaker? Maybe it's a workshop or something to add energy into your conference. Perhaps you're an educator looking to engage and activate students. Hey, my name is Ben McDougal, and if you jump over to benmcdougal.com and hit the speaker page, you'll find a variety of different talks that were brewed to resonate with students, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs so that together we can continue building what's next. All right, back to the show. Curiosity plus innovation plus adaptability equals... We'll hear what Anika thinks about that equation in a moment. But as you heard, I asked her this thought-provoking question that might not have one right answer, it might have some wrong answers, but really it's this continuum. It's this thought-provoking exercise. What is school for? Anika, great to have you in the studio. What comes to mind when I ask that question?
So immediately when you ask that question, it puts me in a state of thinking because school serves so many purposes. Of course, there are some things about school that needs improvement, and that's why we're continuing to renovate it. And honestly, education, at least my perspective, is that it truly can't fit everyone. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. But one thing about school is it gives us that common ground, an experience where students from all backgrounds, all socioeconomic backgrounds, different experiences and life events can come together and find that place. Even though sometimes there are some thought process, there's some things that are taught that are very restrictive of where students can build and what they can think about. But what's really valuable is to have that environment, because I am a big proponent of creating those ecosystems, and school is one example of that. Maybe not the best, but one example of that. And so when we have this common ground, it allows us to find each other and respect each other. And that respect is a big part of growing as a community. And so even if we look throughout history, innovation has happened. It's been there throughout all of time, essentially. That's the only way that we've come to where we are today. But it's also of how we've grown up, how we've seen each other in different settings, how we've learned from each other. And I think school allows for that. School is for bringing people together and giving them that common experience. Now, I definitely don't agree with a lot or some things, and I think that school can adapt in the sense that we can allow more room for students to explore, for that freedom. I think right now we are so stuck to a specific structure that it limits us in how big we can think and how wide we can grow. But definitely some values in that and some drawbacks as well. But school and what it's for is so broad. It can change even depending on what kind of experience you have, what type of school you attend, because each school also has its own culture and what they value. Like we have some magnet schools that might push for STEM education. Others might focus more on a liberal arts education. And how do we push more students into literature and help them understand history and other things like that? So focuses are different, but I think the general thing is it allows for that space for students to come together and set aside their experiences and just be there to learn and witness what they have to offer.
That's beautiful. I think of the words that you used, respect and flexibility, freedom. Even adults are looking at, how they're, probably even more productive outside of the office, and not needing to be in one place in order to check the box of accomplished work. And giving students benefit of the doubt is not the right word, right? But knowing that students are capable and are probably just waiting to be activated, given that awareness to create the confidence we spoke about earlier, and letting that exploration occur, and also not like being the gatekeeper. Like if it doesn't happen here, that's okay. I can guide you to where there's more for you to explore.
Yeah.
Okay, so this fun equation that I threw your way, right? Curiosity plus initiative, which I threw initiative in here because it's one of these types of capitals that always catches my attention when students arrive, right? Showing up takes initiative. Going up and asking how you spend your time, getting involved with people you don't know, and having that kind of that real skill of interacting in a community environment. Following up, these are forms of initiative that when you activate them, there's people that are everywhere looking to help you. And then, of course, the adaptability, right? My answer to this is it's the future of work, but I want to hear what you have to say.
For sure. So this equation, curiosity plus innovation plus adaptability, these are the skills that are so necessary. And I think that we aren't focusing enough on them. Students who have got it, who have understood it, whose parents have kind of instilled it in them. One
of my questions was like your earliest memories of entrepreneurship, and you answered it earlier. It's in your blood. You were around it your whole life. Continue.
Yeah. With that, it's the exposure to this. And I think that when students start to recognize these are not just things that are a burden, but things that are critical to anything that they're going to do. Because sometimes we hear students when we say, like, okay, are you going to arrive on time? Even if they work in an environment, they're like, well, I'm here. They might be 5 minutes late or 2 minutes late. And
it's that simple stuff.
Right. It's the simple stuff, the little things. And I think they haven't truly been nudged in the right direction to understand how valuable those things are.
Right.
I think the big thing is that they also kind of feel like they aren't giving anything of value. And until they feel like they are of value, I think that initiative piece doesn't truly lock in. Because,
when it feels like work, it's the question is, can I be done?
Right.
Do I have to do that? Right? It becomes this almost scarcity mindset. If it feels like play, if it is art, you don't usually ask, do I have to fill this canvas?
Right. It's more like 5 more minutes.
Right. And so when you're in these environments that we're talking about where students are given the freedom to explore their curiosities, show the initiative, given the space to be adaptable, you can activate folks. This is an enrollment thing where people
Absolutely.
Want to be here.
Yeah. And the third piece of that with adaptability, I think, is sometimes we need to be put in a tough situation. Like this summer, something that happened for me was I'd attended Girls State through the American Legion Auxiliary and Girls Nation. And the biggest part of that experience was it was uncomfortable. It was a new environment, and it was so different, nothing I'd ever done before. I was in a room full of students, young women, with very, very different ideologies, different perspectives, different political backgrounds. And it was strange. It was hard because it's also taking me out of my usual environment and putting me in a place where we have all these creative youth. Everyone's initiator. Everyone has this drive in them. They are ambitious.
Your confidence is challenged.
Yes. And I think that was the beauty of it.
Right.
Because that's where I learned to adapt. I've had other examples as well, but until we start allowing these uncomfortable places to be not a place where people fear or that they separate themselves from, but a place where they want to reach. Because I know that now that I've had those experiences and after I've reflected over, okay, what have I been missing? It's really been, okay, where am I uncomfortable? What is challenging for me? Where can I step outside? What is an environment that makes me sweat, that makes my heart pump, that makes me my legs shiver? Like I'm looking for those places.
Those feelings are like signals of on the right track.
Yes. And most times for young people, it triggers that flight instead of fight.
Nice.
And so it's how do we change that? How do we allow youth to shift their perspective on it and understand, this isn't a horror. This isn't a place where I need to run away from. This isn't a haunted house. This is it's a utopia, essentially. This is where I can become my best version, where I can discover those ideas that have been hidden for decades, those creative images or experiences and different values that I may not have recognized early on. And so, I think that the curiosity plus innovation plus adaptability, it's definitely there for the future of work. It's there for success, but it's also there for finding who we are.
When you think about the future of work and you think about real skills, what's an easy one to find with folks in this stage of life? What's the hardest one to find?
I think one thing, and this is just my perspective from what I've seen, I think the easy one to find is depth of thought. Young people are putting in so much thought into every action that they do, into every decision that they make.
I think that's in contrast with what people might assume.
Right. Most people think that, okay, youth are just going to go with their first instinct. But I disagree. If you truly take the time to talk to young people, and any young person that's listening to this, and no matter how young or how old, wherever they are in their life, they are putting that thought into it. And the thing is, we aren't recognizing that or valuing them. That appreciation, that sense of feeling like you are welcome, like you have something to offer, is something that's so special and it's so necessary in this time period, because this is the part where we're understanding who are we and what can we offer. And now for the part that's missing, I think it's communication. Are we communicating what we're feeling? As children, as people, we have a lot of emotions, and that's really what makes us human. And we have all these perspectives that have been built off of our experiences and what we've been exposed to from a young age. And are we able to communicate those feelings, those expressions, what we want, what we don't like? Who are we? What makes us uncomfortable? What are some room for improvement? Where can we still grow? And I think that communication aspect it's missing right now. And that's where if we can provide that support, give them that environment, we can build some pretty incredible ecosystems for innovation to just propel. And we can allow them that freedom to build without permission. Because right now, since they aren't truly communicating, it's this sort of expectation like, okay, someone's going to come, they're going to ask me, what do I need to do for them? Instead of what can I do for not only them, but for myself.
This is so refreshing. I continue to enjoy, and I continue to comment on my state of enjoyment, my friend. The insight that you're sharing is remarkable. And I wonder, how do we encourage students to interact within the community when oftentimes that communication may, not be as experienced? I find that maybe it's an assumption, but I find that people are slow to go into a group of adults because they feel as though they have nothing to contribute. When that is the, distant, false,
Right.
not true at all. And so instead of showing up to these community environments and standing in a circle of friends that you can chat with next time you're in class together,
Yes.
how do you activate that initiative to go in and, mix it up with people they don't know?
Mm-hmm. This is a great point, because that's also something that is happening right now is youth don't want to truly interact with adults because they feel uncomfortable. And adults, they want to understand youth, but they aren't finding the right ways to do it. So that disconnect it's growing. It's shifting every day. Sometimes some people have got it right. Some people are still figuring it out if this is really even effective. But to initiate it, I think really it's just how do we give them that perspective that they have something to offer and that we want to listen. I think when we say, I want to hear you for who you are, what you have to offer, what your thought process is on this, when we invite them into those environments, into those spaces, because even when we're considering like those circle discussions, when we're all standing around with our friends, just chatting about, people feel left out, and young people do too. And when we just have one adult, even if one adult takes that initiative and heads over to a young person and says, hey, what are your thoughts on this? That can turn into something very, very different. And that experience on its own can give that young person the motivation to then go out and talk to more people. And it won't happen the first time. I promise you, the first time it will be difficult. But the more often we do it, the more likely the young people, just all the youth in that area and wherever you're asking them, they're going to become more likely to go out and do those things themselves.
Very interesting, because you mentioned the abundance of deep thought amongst your peers, and yet perhaps the lack of communication. And a question like that activates the deep thought and helps practice communication.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. All right. Last but not least, this isn't a technical term, but NTAs, non-teenager activities. One of the things I see when you look at entrepreneurship with students is that because they have similar problems, the ideas for solutions, right? The ideas to commercialize sometimes become a little duplicative. And so getting outside of your comfort zone, talking within the community, maybe jumping into an existing project that wasn't your original idea, seeing how others are exploring the world at different stages in their life might give you that alternative angle that the next student isn't in line waiting to try to build. When you think about activating ideas into reality in this stage of your life, along with like knowing that this is a dance, right? It's like either success or learning. It probably isn't A to B. What's your encouragement for folks around building a company on the timeline of now?
Mm-hmm. When we're thinking about now, I think it's are we taking the initiatives ourselves before we expect it from others? And so my biggest encouragement is take a risk, take a chance. You never know. Even if something has maybe like a 0.01% chance of happening, send that email.
Now's the time.
Right. Make that call. Ask that question. Go out. Build that thing. There have been times where I have been hesitant of sending an email or making the ask, essentially. But there have been people behind me who have encouraged me to do that. And I have never regretted that decision. I made that call. I sent that email. And honestly, I went in thinking, I'm not going to expect much out of this. But I got so much more in return. I also got that satisfaction that, I took a chance. And that's what I would encourage every single person, no matter how young, no matter how old, no matter what period of your life you're in, whether you're in that early startup stage or if you are now a polished individual. There's always that opportunity to take a chance. And right, like you said, there will be successes and there will be lessons learned. Truly, there's no such thing as failure. There's only lessons in disguise. And that's been a lesson that's been so difficult for me to learn, but it's true. It's true. There are no failures. And so I think that you shouldn't wait for an idea to just hit you one day or for someone's permission to do more or be that person who's extra. I know it's uncommon, but it's okay to be extra. And so what I'd say as we're wrapping this up is the world is waiting for you. So dream bigger, aspire greater, and achieve more.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of You Don't Need This Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this weekly dose of innovative energy. Thanks to all who make this show possible. Be sure to smash that subscribe button, and I'd love to learn more about what you're building. Hit me up over at benmcdougal.com, and until next time, may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Keep building.